now, coming to you live from Huntsville Attic Studios, it's Pop Culture Philosophers. And here are your hosts, Rockin, Robbie, Billups, and John Hammertime Holshoe.
Hey everybody, it's the Pop Culture Philosophers, coming to you always live from the Huntsville Attic. Tonight we're going to talk about that duo, the directing duo, actually, the Coen Brothers. Everybody loves the Coen Brothers. I'm very excited to talk about the Coen Brothers. There's so many fans. They make such a phenomenal film library they have done. So I'm excited to talk about it. Of course, I'm John Hammertime Holshoe. With me always is Rockin' Robbie Billups.
Hey, how are you guys doing out there in podcast listening land? John here in the Huntsville Attic, excited on Pop Culture Philosophers to be talking about the Coen Brothers. Love the Coen Brothers, man. Like, we've been planning on doing this for a very, very, very long time. Back in the Smile or Else show days, we did a Wes Anderson episode, and ever since then, we wanted another director spotlight, and Coen Brothers has always been something I've wanted to do, and now we're here doing it. And with us doing it tonight is the old school Smile or Else crew. That's right, the same guys that are here with us from the Wes Anderson podcast and the Smile or Else days. We got the original host of the Smile or Else show, ladies and gentlemen, Mike the Voice Matthews.
Writers, directors, producers,
Editors.
Yeah. Some of the editing, they've got their own editor.
They run their own craft table.
Their own editors themselves, man. It's like
they actually use the
pseudonym.
digital transition process too.
Also from the original SOE days, it's James Lineback, everybody.
It's great to be back again.
It is great to have you back here. Of course, you've both been on Pop Culture Philosophers, and, you know, we've been doing this for a long time, John. In fact, the three of us have been podcasting longer than you.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, new guy.
Yeah, it has been a minute, but it's super excited, guys, to have you here and talk about the Coen Brothers. And the first question I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to start with you, John. So let's just put you on the spot. Like, we're the podcast veterans because we've been doing it, a year and a half longer than him. But no, why do you love the Coen Brothers? Why are we doing a show about them? Why do you love them?
I don't know. It's because I like their films. I like their film style. I don't know. There's something about them. They some of their films are taking ordinary people, putting them in extraordinary circumstances. But other times they do have some zany people, like what's his name? H.I. Is that his name from Raising Arizona?
Yes.
So they do have some zany characters as well. I don't know. They do a good job explaining a story. Great soundtrack. They're just a great directing team. You know, I'd put them up there with some of my favorite directors, Wes Anderson and Spielberg, and they're just phenomenal.
You know, and they are a directing team, even though because of the rules of the Directors Guild, like, you're not allowed to really share credit as a director fully unless you're an established duo, which has finally happened for the Coen Brothers, and they alternate top billing for directing. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but they do that, and that's really cool. But they've always kind of made the movies themselves. It's always been a team effort, you know, and that's super, super cool. And you said they have a lot of zany characters, and so do we here at the table in the Huntsville Attic right now. One of those is Mike Matthews. Why do you love the Coen Brothers?
Damn, we in a tight spot. Very quotable. And you can, a majority of the people, you can quote their movies and people will catch on to it. And if they don't, then they're just like, I've heard a lot about that movie. I want to watch that movie. So they're fun. They're enjoyable. You can relate to them in some form or fashion.
Yeah. James, what do you like about the Coen Brothers?
I would say it's their very relatable humor. Like, you can relate to these kind of things happening to you. Like, you know, your normal, everyday, like, clumsy accidents and stuff you have. And, like, also the fact that they play a lot of homage to the classics.
Oh, yes. Almost all their films homage something from the past.
And then just their overall production detail. Everything, you can tell everything is in its place and all those shots and everything.
Everything is so meticulous. It's purposeful. And like one of the things that I hear about the Coen Brothers is they're script Nazis, you know, pardon the phrase, but they're really hardcore about every line of dialogue spoken is something that they wrote. You know, it's very purposeful, and I like that too. You guys have hit all the nails on the head. I'm just going to say,
I was going to say to their writing style also, sometimes they write the scene, and so it's a bunch of scenes.
Yes.
And then they throw it all together.
Yeah, they focus, they'll like work out scenes and not worry about how they connect really until later on. Yeah. And it's a very unorthodox style of script writing, but I think it works. I think it's very effectual. I think they're really brilliant directors, but they're just as brilliant with writing. But, you know, like you guys say, their films are funny, they're quotable, they're dark, but they speak about something, you know, and even if it doesn't seem like it. Something as trivial as like The Lady Killers or Raising Arizona, right? All of their films speak on many levels about human experience. You know, they're rarely funny and somber, soul-searching looks into human lives, no matter how significant or insignificant, whether it's the biggest actor of the day in Hail Caesar or just a random nobody bartender who slept with the wrong woman and Blood Simple.
So we talked a little bit why we liked them. Let's talk a little about the history of the Coen brothers. So it's Joel and Ethan Coen, collectively known as the Coen brothers. They're American filmmakers. They write, direct, and produce their films as a team, as Mike had mentioned before. Apart from The Lady Killers, in which Joel received the sole directing credit and Ethan received a producer credit. They were raised in a Jewish household in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. They actually spent a lot of time going to the Twin Cities. You know, a lot of their the love for the big city or the references are sometimes to the Twin Cities. There was actually a hangout spot there that was Mike Zoss Drugs, and the name of their film company is Mike Zoss Productions, or Mike, you know, so they reference that, and there's actually a drug company called Mike Zoss Drugs in No Country for Old Men, which is the straight up name. I guess maybe that company, I hope that store is gone.
Is that the place that he goes and blows up the car and just goes in and grabs?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
super cool.
So there were kids, they saved all their money from mowing lawns to buy their first camera, a Vividar Super 8. And then what they do is get their friends together and they would reshoot films they liked. So they would just basically redo entire films. They didn't do original stuff. They redid films. And then after high school, Ethan went to Princeton, got an undergraduate degree in philosophy. Joel went to the New York University to study film. The first commercial film they did was a 1984 picture called Blood Simple. Together, they have won an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay for Fargo. They also won Oscars for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Adapted Screenplay for No Country for Old Men.
Absolutely. And they've had a lot of other nominations.
They've had a lot of nominations.
Like True Grit, Serious Man. Yeah.
I think 13 nominations as a duo, and then each themselves got a nomination. So they've had, 16 nominations, or that's 15 nominations total, but they've won a ton, and I foresee them winning more Oscars in the future. So like I said, Blood Simple was their first commercial film as a team. That's one of the films I'll straight admit I had not seen. I've seen the majority of films. I did not see that one. But you've seen that, Robbie. What's actually the first film you've seen by them?
Well, looking back on it now, obviously, the first one I would have seen was Raising Arizona, which I grew up never really liking. Thought it was too quirky, kind of dumb. You know, I have a better appreciation for it now. I really do. But the first one that I remember watching, knowing these guys are the Coen brothers, is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And like, I remember Fargo was a big deal. I had seen Big Lebowski, but I didn't know that was a Coen brothers film. But when Oh Brother came out, I watched that. And then I watched Fargo for the first time after that. So Oh Brother is the first time I watched it knowing it was the Coen brothers. But before that, it was Raising Arizona, because that was such a huge movie.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, that was their first film. The first film I saw by them was Raising Arizona, before I knew who they were. And actually, Raising Arizona was one of those. Remember, Columbia House had that video? Did the video? You could order videos in the club.
Oh, the movie club.
Yeah, they had the movie club. So they had music club, the movie club, VHS. For most listeners, know what I'm talking about. Some listeners don't, probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I subscribed, the first movie I ordered was Raising Arizona. I'm like, this is such a great film. And I don't know why I wanted to order that film, but that was one of the first.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that was the first one I saw by them as well, pre-VHS. I think we rented out a beta or something, but yeah, that was the first one I saw. I think
if they don't know VHS, they don't know beta.
Yeah,
Just really confused.
consciously, I think the first film, you're right, that I saw by them was Where Brother They're Out, though. Even though after that I realized
Which one was that?
What did you just say?
Wait,
Where Brother, Where Art Thou? What?
I fucked up the name. Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? Is that the name?
I
of the
believe
film?
so,
I
yeah.
think that's the correct.
The other one's the sequel.
Yeah.
It was an animated film.
Was
Most
it
people
straight
didn't
to
see it.
video?
So what was your first Coen Brothers film, James?
It would be Fargo.
Okay.
Yeah, we rented that on the VHS as you were talking.
Okay,
about.
VHS.
Yeah.
And what was your impression when you first saw that film?
I mean, that movie is so just. Some parts are just so crazy and out there, but then like the whole situation is very, understandable. Kidnapped wife and all that kind of stuff. But then just like some of the unexpected reactions and like things you get from the characters in that. You know? Like the whole trying to describe Steve Buscemi's character. Weird.
Yeah, he's weird looking. He's a weird looking guy. He's just weird looking. I get what you're saying, because it's like, it's a crime movie, and Blood Simple's kind of the same way, though not like as intentionally funny.
Yeah, there's not much
as Fargo.
Not as much.
But it's
humor in that.
normal people that are in this criminal world.
Yeah,
which
people
are,
who would not have been there normally.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden,
and the criminal world has real criminals in it, like the Nihilist in Fargo, for instance, and
The Nihilist.
and William H. Macy's character is
Nihilists.
completely over his head in this movie, and that's the case with a lot of their movies. People getting way in over their head because they're not made for this. I think a lot of their movies draw a distinction about people. There are people that are made for this. Like think of dude from No Country. He's made for that. The
Anton.
Nihilist. Yeah, Anton, or the Nihilist from Fargo, and versus your William H. Macy or the gym workers in Burn After Reading. So out of their depth.
What was the first film you saw, Mike, by the Coen Brothers? Do you recall?
The first film that I saw by the Coen Brothers was actually the Hudsucker Proxy.
Oh, okay. So a little bit later on. You didn't start with Raising Arizona like the rest of us.
I saw bits and pieces and clips of Raising Arizona and was just kind of like, meh. And it was okay. I really didn't get it or understand it,
Now, the Hudsucker Proxy
I was only maybe like
is an interesting
9
film.
or 10.
After you saw that film, did you want to see more of them, or did it make you confused? Or
I
I
really enjoyed the film, which actually, the only reason that I wanted to watch the film was because I knew Bruce Campbell was in it, and I wasn't sure what his role was. So I'm like, hey, Bruce Campbell's in this. Dude from Army of Darkness and Evil Dead. Hell yeah, I'm going to watch it.
Well, yeah, Sam Raimi actually wrote that one, right? Like, didn't he? Like, Sam Raimi wrote Hudsucker Proxy.
No, he worked with them on Miller's Crossing.
Yeah. I don't
Okay.
think
That's
it
why
was
he's actually
Hudsucker.
in it. He's one of the gangsters that gets killed at the very beginning of the movie.
He is. Yeah, absolutely.
But then it's like, oh, hey, Fargo comes out. It's like, oh, it's the same guys that did Hudsucker. Then Big Lebowski comes out. It's like, oh, it's the same guys that did, in these two movies. And then Lebowski is like, oh, hey, these. And it's like, oh, brother. It's like, hey, here's these same guys have done these movies that I've enjoyed, just really never cared for directors at that time. I don't think it was until like maybe 2002 when I started paying attention to directors.
Yeah.
So-
And that's also really, they came up, with Fargo was like a big critical smash, and Barton Fink actually before that. But I think the general populace really started to know them during the Oh Brother time, right around there. And it was like, yeah, these are the guys that did Fargo and Big Lebowski. And people are like, oh, I love those movies. I'm just going to say real quick, though, that Sam Raimi did indeed co-write Hudsucker Proxy with the Coen Brothers. Just going to say. I looked that up. I Googled you guys.
I should point out too, and when I went over their biography briefly, I should have mentioned that Joel was an assistant editor for Evil Dead. So that's how he met Sam, and him and Sam Raimi are friends and have done some work together. So that would make sense. And then Bruce Campbell, of course, would make an appearance in one of their films.
Yeah, he's in Lady Killers, too, in a very, very small little role. He's just a dude that looks over at him at one point. Like, I watched it last night, and there he is. I was like, that's Bruce Campbell. I'm like, why is he there?
Again, that link to Sam Raimi.
Absolutely.
Sam
yeah.
Raimi.
And they did Crime Wave, which is a movie they also wrote together right after Blood Simple that Sam Raimi directed. I believe.
That is a Sam Raimi film. Yep.
I've never seen that.
People don't know that Sam Raimi is like the Kevin Bacon. There's 7 degrees to Sam Raimi. He's tied into everybody. Secretly, they don't know that.
All right. Well, we've already talked a little bit about their style of filmmaking and writing, which is very distinctive. That's one of my favorite things about these guys. They're so unique. It's so bold. Like, you can tell they do so many different genres and so many different types of film, but they have a style that carries over. But I do think that basically their movies can be put into 2 categories. They're more serious films and they're more comedic films. Like, I think they're all funny. I think they're all dark. They're all dark movies that are funny, and they're funny, and they make you laugh at things that maybe you shouldn't laugh at. And maybe, like, are they intending me to laugh here?
Yeah.
And every time, I guarantee you they are. But, like, it's always dark. It's always funny. But there are definitely more screwball movies and movies that are more somber. Your No Country versus something like Burn After Reading, And what do you think about their 2 different styles of film? Is one better than the other? Because typically when someone tells me they don't like a Coen Brothers film, it's something like Burn After Reading or The Lady Killers or Hail Caesar, something that's way more just goofy. What do you think about that, James?
I think they kind of do a palate cleanser thing for themselves.
Okay.
Because they start out their very first movie is Blood Simple, and then they make it Raising Arizona. It's like, all right, we're down, we're depressed, let's make something funny. And so I think they kind of, to keep themselves even and balanced, they kind of jump back and forth. But they also have a very fluid style too, though. Like, they can transition from being really serious to being really funny, sometimes within the same scene.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to jump in real quick. And it's one of those things that I was talking about earlier about how they write their scenes and scenes and scenes. Joel, I can't remember which movie it is right now. I have to look it up. But on one of those, they were depressed and kind of down, and they were trying to do this happy, funny movie, and it wasn't fitting. And they wrote a book, and then Joel had written a whole bunch of like these depressing scenes. And I think that's how Fargo came about, or it was something in Fargo, and it's how the Big Lebowski came about. So they had written things for, I think it was, they've written things for Fargo that never made it in, turned into the Big Lebowski, or some of the characters.
Yeah. I know, I read that one of the things they do to deal with writer's block, which is something that happens to them a lot, the way that they write just scene to scene, and they would say that if they got stuck on something, they would write something else, and maybe writing something completely different is a big deal. Like, if you're blocked on something, a more dramatic scene, then write something goofy. Like, break that mold. Like, obviously you're not being able to connect to that emotion. Switch to the opposite emotion. Go completely the opposition. That's what I would think. John, any thoughts about their two types of films? And
I agree with, and I wonder, like you guys were saying there, sometimes when you can't write a wrestling picture, you have to do something else. Even though you're forced to write a wrestling,
Absolutely.
maybe that's why you have that that light and
Show 'em
that
the
dark. Is
dailies.
maybe when they get stumped, they're like, let's do a light thing, or let's work on this other side project, and it turns into a big movie. I also wonder if one of them is more darker. You know, one's just like, I like to do more serious, and I like one's more comedic.
Like
and
Joel's
zany.
the funny guy.
One
Ethan's the one that
has
hates
a
his life.
philosophy degree, so I mean,
Yeah.
you
He's
can see
probably
how
the
that
dark,
could play
serious.
out well.
Well, the other one worked with Sam Raimi, and I would like to say Sam Raimi's done some dark stuff, but Sam Raimi has also done Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2.
I mean, he's done a lot of seriousness and humor,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like
It's
very
hard. It's
similar.
hard to tell. So I don't know.
And then
if
he
it's
made for
different.
Love the Game.
Yeah, I really like how, they do these serious movies that deal with real things or real human emotions and experiences, but like they don't take it too seriously, and I think you should be serious about your life, but I don't think you should take it too seriously. You shouldn't take yourself too seriously, and I don't think they do either. They don't take their work too seriously. Obviously, we don't take our work too seriously.
I think too that's films are escapism for a lot of people. And so if you go in and everything's just serious and dark and the whole thing just makes you depressed when you leave, it's not what other people want. Now, some of their films are like that, like No Country for Old Men.
But even that movie is funny.
it's got funny parts.
It's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah,
and you're
there's-
sitting there during like the scene when Anton is doing the coin flip with the courtesy clerk at the gas station. Is that supposed to be funny? Because it sure is. But it also says a lot when he's like, that's your
darkly
lucky quarter.
odd. Yeah, it's really... Because what were the end results if he didn't get heads? I don't
Yeah.
want to know how it would have
Mike,
changed.
what do you think?
All right, so we're talking about No Country for Old Men, and I'm going to jump to the ending. Tommy Lee Jones is talking with his wife, and she says he's talking about his two dreams. It's the first dream. Now, I don't know if this is just me, but it's there's two dreams I have. They're both of my father, and the first one is me when I'm younger. And he said the whole thing about the age. But he's like, it's when I'm young, and I'm my dad. Talking about meeting my dad he's bringing me some money. And I don't know why I lost it. I found that funny because that right there in that little 2 minutes of that dream explanation was the whole entire movie for No Country.
Yeah.
And I thought that was funny, and I don't know if anybody else caught that.
That's very similar to the ending of Fargo, too, when Frances McDormand's character has captured the Russian guy, the nihilist, and she's just sitting there like, I just don't understand
Yeah,
it.
he is it's the same guy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it
He's
is.
also
but-
the pizza delivery guy.
I'm here to fix the cobble.
But you get what I'm saying. Like a lot of their movies, like those two movies have a huge parallel to me. Is No Country and Fargo. It's like the Tommy Lee Jones character and the Frances McDormand character are the same, and it's this crazy world where they just don't understand it. It's beyond them. That's what No Country for Old Men, the title even means. Is that it's a movie about Tommy Lee Jones's character. Like he's the main character in that movie. People that don't like the ending in that movie and don't get it, they don't get that Tommy Lee Jones is the main character in No Country for Old Men. It's his story, and it's his arc about understanding that he has moved beyond the times. And I think the dream with his father really represents a lot of that. But
More the second dream, more or less, but the first dream was just kind of like a representation of like, hey, here it is, a whole big thing of money and a loss.
and that's preceded by a scene with his brother, which is a very subtle scene to understand that that's even his brother throughout that scene. Really, like it's such a good scene, and it just I understand how it sticks out. And their endings, they do just end a lot of their movies just suddenly. But that's what life is. No Country. My girlfriend the other night, we watched it. So one of my favorite things about this movie is that there's no clear beginning, there's no clear end. It's just a sequence of events inside of a story. And a lot of their stuff I think can be like that. Do you have a preference, John, between their goofy movies and their serious movies?
I prefer their goofier movies. Those ones I've enjoyed more.
Okay.
The problem though is now when they go into their films, if I do become attached to a character, I'm like, is he just gonna get offed randomly?
Yes.
I don't know what I'm watching because again, they do have some of their films, even their dark films have some great comedic elements in them. And some of their comedic films have some dark stuff in them. So I don't want to get attached to like poor Hobie. I'm like, is something going to happen to Hobie? When he's rescuing, I forget George Clooney's character's name as Caesar, whatever his actor's name. But I enjoy their comedic films more. But in general, films, I'm going to say I enjoy more comedic films. I think life can be very depressing, so I need that. I need that happiness.
Yeah, you need. Okay, Mike, what do you think?
I
You got a preference?
I really thought that the dude was going to drown when he was going after that moon while Hobie was singing, Lazy Old Moon. So
Do you have a preference, Mike, between the goofy ones
that
or
was
the
funny.
serious
I
ones?
thought that was funny. I think it's I find it funny, interesting, amusing. Is all the goofy, funny ones have some type of happy ending, or here's the moral of the story, and the serious ones are just like the done. Like,
Yeah.
that's it. End of story. So it all depends on the mood that I'm in. If I guess I'm in a dark kind of down place, I want something that's funny like Hail Caesar, or Barton Fink, and then
Yeah.
if I want to watch something serious, it's Big Lebowski or Fargo or No Country.
What about you, James?
Did you say Big Lebowski is serious?
That is, it's serious.
I would say that maybe is one of their more goofier ones, but it's actually one of the ones that's closer between the two. Like it's more definitively a dark comedy.
Yeah, as
Like,
opposed
it's kinda
to
like right
Racing
there in the-
Arizona.
I mean,
is more of a comedy.
it was film noir. It's a detective story. I mean, it's crime. It's gritty. You know, it's who trust who.
Because the Big Lebowski himself is a detective.
What about you, James?
No, the dude is the detective. The Big Lebowski is the one
Dude
that
is the detective.
the Big Lebowski is the old man.
So I would, I'm seriously split down the middle on them.
People
'Cause
can't
I'm-
see him on the show.
Looking
He actually is cut
down,
in
looking
half.
down my my top five, it kind of alternates. Like
Yeah.
there's a serious one, comedy, a serious comedy.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
it's. I mean,
Yeah, don't feel bad. I have the same answer, man. Like I love both of them. Like I look at my top 5 and it's like, yeah, I mean, and when I was thinking about all their movies, like maybe I like the serious ones more. Maybe just because something about me likes serious stuff more, but I love them both, James. Just like you. Absolutely. You know, but we do have the top 5 coming up and we're about to take a break. But first we're going to start, we've talked a lot about the Coen Brothers. Now we are going to get into a little bit more about the movies, the characters in the movies, the scenes in the movies, and of course the music when we get right back after this break on Pop Culture Philosophers, Coen Brothers.
Hey everybody, it's John Hammertime Holshoe from the Pop Culture Philosophers, letting you know that we're going to be at the Huntsville Comic and Pop Culture Expo, March 18th and 19th at the Von Braun Center's North Hall in Huntsville, Alabama. There's over 23,000 square feet, and they're going to have artists and writers and door prizes and a gaming session and a panel and a kids area. Tons of artists and writers are going to be there, including the legendary Chris Claremont. That's right, X-Men's Chris Claremont. He gave us Stage of Future Pass. He gave us Gambit. How awesome is going to be to have him there at the show. And of course, we're going to be there as well. We're going to have a booth. Swing on by. Come by and chat. Talk about pop culture. We're always down to listen to people talk about pop culture and just shoot the shit with you. So that's March 18th and 19th at the Von Braun Center's North Hall in beautiful Huntsville, Alabama. Come on down. It's the Huntsville Comic and Pop Culture Expo. Welcome back to Pop Culture Philosophers. We were talking about the Coen Brothers, and earlier we were talking about some of the unique characters, some of the bigger-than-life characters they have in their films. And I want to take a minute here to talk about our favorite characters from those films. We're not going to do villains right now. We're going to talk about some of the other favorite characters because, honestly, they have some great standout characters, some iconic characters, ones that people, print on T-shirts because they make some great... I mean, really, they do. So I'm going to start with James. What are some of your favorite characters from the standout characters in your mind?
Well, I mean, the biggest one that's the easiest one to pick out as a excellent character is obviously the dude.
The dude.
But some of my other favorites, Pete Hogwallop.
Which one's that?
He's the from Oh Brother Where Art Thou? John Turturro.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Oh, yes.
Love John Turturro.
We thought you was a toad.
That's the other guy, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's his name? Dale?
Dale, yeah.
Yeah.
Delmer.
Both of those.
Delmer,
yeah.
We thought you was a toad. I love that. fucking
And then Professor G.H. Dole.
Is that Tom Hanks?
Yeah,
Yeah,
from
dude.
Lady
He's
Killers.
hilarious, man. He's so funny.
Like, I think it's, yeah.
He's got the best vocabulary in any Coen Brothers character. Like, straight
most
up.
definitely. And, yeah, of course, Walter. Soap check, too.
Well, Walter's
He's the dude's sidekick.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was going to get some of my supporting actors, but Walter's stands out for sure. Mikey, who are some of your favorite characters or some of the standout characters in your mind from the Coen Brothers universe? I hope it's universe, by the way. I hope these are all interconnected films, like View Askewers.
George Clooney's character in Oh Brother is a good one.
Oh yeah, Ulysses.
But the one that I love the best, and it's the Brad Pitt's character from Bird After Reading.
Oh yeah. The big
character-
fitness guru.
Yeah, and it's just like you.
He thinks this is a Schwinn.
I mean, he does such a great role in that, and then what happens to him was just like, no, say it isn't so. It's a dream, right? This is like a flashback. Like this is hey, this could happen, and then like, oh man,
It was rather sudden.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Robbie, any standout characters you really like from these films?
Well, like Mike said, Ulysses Everett McGill.
Yeah, that's his
George
full name.
Clooney's character
Yeah.
from Oh Brother Where Art Thou? I'm a huge George Clooney fan. Love that character. I love Albert Finney's character in Miller's Crossing. Leo, the mob boss, is awesome. And of course, Marge Gunderson.
Yeah, Margie.
Margie
How
from
can you not
Fargo.
like Marge
I love
Gunderson?
you, Margie. I love those three
Yeah,
characters.
the
in particular.
wonderful.
But there are so many great characters. The dude is a great character, of course, you know, and I know a lot of people are going to like him. But there's so many good characters in all of these movies, man.
I like the narrators that they use in all of them.
Oh yeah, like Sam Elliott in Big Lebowski is great. Like,
And
I love-
Sam Elliott could narrate any movie. It would be better film.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's got one of those voices like him and Morgan Freeman should just narrate everything.
Yeah, he's the white Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, he's and that, and that mustache, man. That mustache.
That mustache. People who have to go back and redub dialogue love him.
What about you, John?
Maybe for the videos, Robbie, we should grow big mustaches.
Yeah, we should.
And then if we have to dub the videos,
Yeah,
be much more professional.
that's a great idea. What
I'm
are
gonna say,
some of yours?
Well, the dude, like you said, Marge Gunderson, of course, Marge. Ulysses, of course, George Clooney's character, which we already spoke about, and then Nic Cage's character in Raising Arizona.
Okay.
Is
Yeah.
it H.I.?
H.I.
He's such a
Hi.
cartoony character. He really is
He's like a
more
Looney
than
Tunes
life.
character,
Yeah, he's
straight
he's straight up like such a zany character. And all these characters I can relate to in their films and be like, oh, they're just in an odd situation or they've made bad mistakes. Him, I can't relate to. He's just like so off the wall, such a jackass. But you can't help but love him, and he does such a good job. Say what you will about Nic Cage. Go ahead. I'll wait. Some people don't care for him, but he does such a stellar job.
He's really funny, and he always has bad hair in most of his movies. So
That's because they put the hair on afterwards.
that's true.
It was.
All right, we talk about the characters, and the Coen Brothers, like a lot of big time directors, use a lot of the same actors. So, what are some of your favorite leading, actors in the Coen Brothers movies? What are some of your favorite actors from these movies? And I want to start with Mikey, as John calls him.
So we're talking favorite reoccurring actor.
Yeah,
It's got to be John Goodman.
John Goodman.
I mean, there's from his role in Raising Arizona, and then the character that he plays in Barton Fink, you're just like, what the f-? And then I love the Cyclops and
In No Country. I mean, in Oh Brother.
Oh Brother. It's gonna get
Yeah,
really.
don't you remember the Cyclops in No Country?
It's gonna get real
I don't
confusing here.
remember that.
And even like his character did not have a huge role inside Llewyn Davis, but it was still just a great character for him to play. But everybody knows him as Walter. So
Yeah. What about you, James?
I
Favorite actors?
Jeff Bridges
Yes.
and Frances McDormand.
Yes.
She's in,
She's in
over
a lot.
half
She,
of
of
them.
course, is married to Joel.
Yeah, they
So,
got married in
she's always
84.
there.
Since '84, well, that's when Blood Simple came out.
Yeah.
So, and she's in that movie. She's the main
Exactly.
actor in that movie, the main actress in that movie.
and of course George Clooney's made some really good performances in their movies as well.
Yes. Let me just go ahead and say yes. George Clooney and Frances McDormand, absolutely. I think they are fantastic lead actors in these movies. But Frances McDormand takes the cake, man. Like every time she's in one of those movies, it's memorable. Even she plays the mother in Raising Arizona, in the smallest little role in like Miller's Crossing. But Blood Simple, she's great. Fargo, she's great, and she's great in Burn After Reading. Like she'll
Yeah.
break your heart in Burn After Reading. Like, I love her.
She's awesome. She's one of those people too that unfortunately there is occasions where a director will pick his wife or his daughter or his they pick somebody in the family. There's a bias there.
Yes.
That's not the case with her. She's such a phenomenal actor.
I
that,
would probably even say most of those characters are written for her, probably.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
probably.
probably.
John, what about you? Some of your favorite actors?
We've already said Jeff Bridges. He does such an awesome job as the dude.
And
He does-
Rooster, man.
As Rooster
Oh, my goodness.
Cogburn. And then, of course, we talked about Frances McDormand. Awesome. And we didn't mention Nic Cage. He's not in a bunch of recurrent films. All these actors show up over and over and over again in their films. Nic Cage isn't one of those. George Clooney, obviously, in a couple of their films, does a great job. And then I was going to say, when we didn't mention, William H. Macy was so great in
Fargo.
Yeah. And that's the one too we were talking about where he felt that role was meant for him, and he threatened to, I guess, kill their dog if they didn't select him for the role, and he kept
That's
bugging him
appropriate
and
for a
bugging him.
Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah, and he said he was just joking. I think people might have took offense to that, but he felt that role was wrote for him. It's not like he wasn't an established actor before that, because William H. Macy's a famous actor. But man, oh man, he did such a good job as can't remember the characters. What's the character's
William
name?
H. Macy?
Yeah.
I don't remember the character's name.
I remember he was the shoveler in Mystery Man.
He was the
Yes.
shuffler. God damn it.
His best role ever.
We've already touched on some of these, like John Goodman's character is Walter, but what about some of the supporting actors? Because I think we're leaving a lot of people out here. Because they They know how to pick them, let me tell you. James, favorite supporting?
Oh, well, of course, John Turturro. He has many memorable, like, small roles and, of course, leading roles in their movies.
Yeah, after that leading role, he's shown back up many, many times.
Yeah,
and even
he's
small.
in Miller's Crossing,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, he's great in that.
Even,
in that
what
movie.
was it, Jesus? Is that his name?
He was Jesus, yeah.
He only shows up for just a minute, but man.
You don't mess with the Jesus.
Yeah, and Steve Buscemi.
Ah, I love
yeah.
Steve
He
Buscemi.
kind
Also,
of always ends up in
always a
pieces by the
supporting
end.
role.
But, you know, he's there. And then Holly Hunter. She pops up in a lot of small roles, but she's really good.
Yeah,
Wasn't Holly Hunter the wife in...
And Raising Arizona,
Raising Arizona?
and Oh Brother.
Oh, brother.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. She's so funny in Raising
Yeah.
Arizona. She cracks me up.
I think it's just something about the way her voice sounds when she can
Yes.
deliver those lines.
Mikey, some of your favorite supporting actors. We've talked about some of our favorite. I mean, we've had some overlap, but some of your favorite supporting actors, other people that you love from the Coen Brothers films.
There's a lot that we've mentioned. There's a lot we've talked about, and I'm gonna throw curveball and go John Pilato.
The guy from Miller's Crossing that was like the rival gangster.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then he was the
gumshoe.
He wants the one to team up with the dude and figure out. And he's in a bunch of their films.
Yes.
just as this really minor supporting character that nails it.
Robbie?
John Goodman, I think, is a great one. John Turturro is a great one too. I think both of those are some really good actors that come up in a lot of their movies in supporting roles that are really good. But overall, yeah, John Goodman, I think, he's in so many of their movies, and he's never really in the biggest role. I guess his biggest role in one of their movies is Barton Fink, possibly, but like when he plays Charlie. But he's in so much, like Mike said, from the Cyclops and Oh Brother / No Country. Not like even Llewyn Davis. I really like John Goodman. I think that he's a good go-to guy for the Coen Brothers.
I think
Turturro.
he is.
I think
definitely.
Turturro's role in Miller's Crossing is really, really good. Also, Albert Finney, I'm going to give him a little bit of props
Oh, yeah.
because of his portrayal of the gangster in Miller's Crossing.
Now, we were talking about...
What about you, John?
We talked about John Turturro, and when I think of great actors, John Turturro comes to mind. And if you asked me 10 years ago, I would have said John Turturro. He would have been like one of the greatest actors. But I wouldn't have brought up, prior to The Big Lebowski, I wouldn't have thought that a guy from a B sitcom would be one of the greatest actors of all time.
Roseanne was all A, homie.
Oh, okay. Well, you say that. But John Goodman has just got so much range. I'm happy he's a go-to when he's in so many of their films because he is just amazing. And more, not just the Coen Brothers films, but tons of films. He's all over the place, and he's such a great actor. And I'm so happy they continue to feature him, even if it's bit parts, because he does such a great job. And again, he's all over the map. He can do really whatever
King
they want
Growl.
him
Absolutely.
to do. God damn it.
Continuing on this theme with like actors and characters and whatnot, and I think a lot of us might have
I think this
one guy
this
on
one's
our
gonna be
list.
very, very easy.
Favorite villains, protagonists, or antagonists, actually. Villains in these movies. And sometimes the villain is the character themselves or the situation they're brought in. Like, for instance, the villain maybe in Barton Fink is the hotel or Hollywood, even. You know, not necessarily Charlie, but like, what are some of the villains, your favorite villains, antagonists in these movies? I'm going to start with Mike.
Llewyn Davis.
Llewyn Davis as himself.
Yes,
yeah.
stuff. Because
He's so self-destructive.
Because he cannot get out of his own way, and it's a very relatable trait. And it's just like, be cool, man. Just don't be a dick, and it's just like you'll be fine. And it's just like everybody tells him what to do, and he's like, no, I'm just gonna go do this, and it's just like you're just an ass.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's the main character, but you know he's also the villain of that film.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't seen Inside Llewyn Davis, seriously watch it. It's their movie. They won like a lot of awards at Cannes in 2013 when this movie came out. It's so good. Such a great film. What about you, John? What are some of your favorite villains in the Coen Brothers films?
Besides Anton.
Yes.
How do you say his last name? It's Shiger.
Shiger.
I don't know.
Shiger.
Javier Bardem.
Javier Bardem, yes.
I was gonna say one that really always freaked me out is your nihilist buddy, but it's when he's in Fargo, because he doesn't really talk and he's just creepy as shit. And then throw him in the woodchopper. That just always give me the damn willies.
Yeah.
And the actor's name is Peter. Is it Stormare? Yep. I think is that how they say his last name? And he's in a couple of their films. I mean, he's a recurring character, but his biggest role is Fargo.
Yeah.
Maybe not a role he wants to be remembered for if he's like at the gas station getting a Mountain Dew or something. Like, hey, aren't you the guy that put that guy in the woodchopper?
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, Steve Buscemi played a villain once, even though he's got a lot of parts in their films where he's not a villain. He does play a villain, although sort of an anemic, whiny little villain.
In Fargo. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course,
he's a great villain though.
but of course Peter doesn't let him stick around.
The
very long.
complaining villain.
But the villain's name actually in the movie is Yar Grimsrud, I guess, is the guy's. You don't even hear his name, I don't think.
Yeah, I think
in
he's
Fargo.
Scandinavian.
Yeah, you never actually hear his
Okay.
name. He doesn't really talk. Really, I drove this whole fucking time and you couldn't just carry on have a conversation or talk? I just like Steve Buscemi going off on him.
Yeah, he's pretty funny. What about you, James? What are some of your favorite villains in these movies?
Well, I mean, of course, like, as far as, someone you've got to hate, Anton, man. He's just the ultimate villain. Like, he's kind of just pure evil wrapped up in a, Hispanic man.
He's like the second coming of Mike Myers.
Yeah,
exactly.
no lie.
He's pretty close.
The Lebowskis, the Coen brothers said it was their version of the Boogeyman.
He is. He's definitely with that haircut.
Yes, absolutely.
And then, of course, the...
That's what dates the film, John, is the haircut.
yeah, I think... And then, of course, the Nihilist, I think.
Mike
because they're the most fumbling...
It's 2016 and Mike has that same haircut right now. People can't see, but that's the haircut that Mike has.
So the Nihilist from Big Lebowski.
Yeah,
Which I kept saying the Nihilist from Fargo, but because it's the same actor.
It is the same actor. He's also the pizza delivery guy.
Well, I'm going to say Anton, first of all, because straight up, like, force of nature. And a really cool theory about No Country is that it's the story of one man, but three facets of his personality. That Llewellyn and the sheriff and Anton are like three aspects of the same character, almost in a way. And that's kind of interesting, but I really love, I mean, he's so badass in that movie. He's so good. I mean, he won the Academy Award for that movie, right? Yeah. He's great. It really launched his career. I'm also going to go with Tom Chaney from True Grit because that's the Josh Brolin character.
Yeah, that's...
Because, what's her name? Maddie? Is that her name? The little girl's name?
I believe so,
The
yeah.
young lady?
Maddie Ross.
Yeah, Maddie. Like, she's going after this guy because he killed her father. And so it builds up and you're like, this guy's going to be so badass. But it's the dude he's running with that's really badass. And he's just so much of a dullard. He cracks me up, dude. I laugh when I see Tom Chaney. He's just, what? I don't even know how to explain it, but Anton, I think, is hands down one of the best villains in film, period.
There's some great scenes. There's some standout scenes that people either reference or, people will play those clips over and over again. What are the standout scenes, or is there any standout memorable scenes you'd like to talk about? I'm gonna start with James. Go clockwise.
You felt so defeated. I'm gonna start with James. You looked around, you're like, I guess James is the best I got.
I guess James will do.
Fuck it. Go with James.
All right. I would say from the Big Lebowski, when Wu breaks into his apartment and they mess up his rug and all that stuff, and and it's just like some of the lines like, obviously you're not a golfer. What's this?
Obviously, you're not a go.
Obviously, you're not a...
And then he's just like, hey Wu, I think we do have the wrong place.
Isn't this guy supposed to be rich? Yeah, you're a loser.
Mikey, there's some standout scenes in the... we could go on this probably for a while, actually. There's some standout scenes you want to talk about? There's a lot of great standout scenes, in my opinion.
We've brought it up before. It's not my favorite. It's the coin flip in the gas station.
Oh, yeah.
The old guy's just kind of confused and lost, and he's...
I need to know what we're betting for, or whatever. What's
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just that's a great scene. I just dropped by to see the condition that my condition.
Oh,
is
his
in.
dream sequence.
The dream sequence.
That is a great.
Oh, yeah.
That whole thing is great. Yeah, that whole scene is great, and great song to go with it.
Oh yeah, and then my personal favorite scene, and you should already know this one because it gets me every time. And If It Were So.
Torso from Hail Caesar. Yeah.
Hail Caesar.
Lorenz. Oh my goodness.
Poor Hobie. Poor Hobie.
And it's funny because like Hobie cannot say if it were so, and it's just like if it were so. Well, I'm saying it like if it were so, if it were so, if it were so. What is this twir? What is this?
What do you do with your hands? But what are some standout scenes for you, Robbie?
Well, you guys have already said a lot of good ones, like a lot of good ones. I'll throw up real quick. Albert Finney, I've talked about this before, when he plays Leo, the gangster boss, the mob boss in Miller's Crossing, and they send the hitmen after him, and he's just chilling in bed, smoking a cigar, and he hears some noise, and he's like, what's that? And he just gets ready, and he gets his gun out, and he just completely kills these two dudes that are sent after him, jumps out of his, jumps out of his window, I believe, and gets out, and he's got his cigar in his mouth, and he's chasing this car that are shooting Tommy guns at him with his own Tommy gun. He just keeps shooting at him as he's walking down the street, never moving, like bullets bouncing and ricocheting all around him, never stops and breaks his stride, keeps going until eventually he shoots the gas line or whatever and blows this little car up. I mean, it's like, seriously, if people love The Godfather and Scarface, this is the best mob boss, gangster, badass scene out there. One more little thing the picking up the diaper scene in Raising Arizona.
Oh my god!
When he just
He's running
goes
from the cops.
and he just goes to get the diapers, but he he holds up the store so his wife takes off. Yeah, he's got they're playing that yodeling music.
Yeah.
And then the dogs get involved in the chase.
And the dog's on that chain
and
almost
the cops
snaps
are
his
just
face
the
off.
cops are just shooting wildly at
Over a guy with
everything.
some diapers.
Yeah, it's hilarious, man. What about you, John?
I was gonna say you covered most of them. One of my favorites though that we didn't mention was the marmot. He's in the tub, the dude, and he's just he's got all his candles and he's smoking and he's just listening to music and he's relaxing.
You notice that the
the
dude
nihilist.
always is smoking a roach clip. He never has like a full joint or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's always like a
Well,
roach clip.
except for when he's at the goes to see the Big Lebowski.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the only time he actually pulls out a
full
whole one. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, when they were making the movie, he always asked before every scene, "Did you just burn one?"
Yeah, of course, right?
He does the
And
rub
then
his
he
eyes.
rubs his
And
eyes
it's
to get them all
hilarious.
red and everything
It's
right
hilarious
before every
because
scene.
we all have an uncle like that.
Yeah, I do like that. But yeah, he's just trying to relax in the tub, man. When they come barging in the nihilist and the marmot, and I think they keep saying marmot, but it's
Did they throw like a ferret
it's
in
a
the tub or
ferret.
something?
It's a ferret.
Well, no,
like, those
'cause
aren't even legal around or whatever. And
All right, we're running a little low on time, but I think one thing, when we did the Wes Anderson podcast, we talked a lot about music, and a lot of the greatest film directors really understand the importance of music in their movies. I think the Coen Brothers are right up there. What are some of your favorite songs and scores from the Coen Brothers? And we're going to start with Mr. Holshoe, Hammertime that he is right now.
so we talked a little bit. We've talked about the Big Lebowski.
Talk a little bit about Ha.
So I'd say with The Man and Me by Bob Dylan, which is in Big Lebowski, and also just dropped in to see what my condition was in Big Lebowski, and then on top of that, the Gypsy Kings take on Hotel California. I love their version of Hotel California.
Is that your favorite soundtrack then?
I'd say overall it's probably my favorite. Second would probably go to Oh Brother We're Out Thou, because you not only have The Man of Constant Sorrow, but you also have Down to the River to Pray by Alison Krauss, and it's just a great dude. It's just a great soundtrack, and that's
great.
That's I feel. There are other songs that obviously are made appropriately for those movies or fit for those movies, but obviously this soundtrack feel like they were the movies based around these songs as opposed to now, mind you, the exception would be I haven't seen Inside. Was it Llewellyn Davis? Is that the name
Llewellyn
of the film?
Davis, yeah.
I haven't seen that film. With the exception of that film, I would say that was the one that most felt like the movie was based around the songs.
I guarantee
vice
you guys
versa.
that one day the Coen Brothers are going to make a musical. They're going to make a musical because you can tell in their movies that they want to. Llewellyn Davis is basically a musical. Oh Brother Where Art Thou is a musical. And there's that big-ass musical number that Channing Tatum led in Hail Caesar, which that's a great scene, too. That really stands out.
You know who loves musicals? Garth Ennis.
You mean Warren Ellis.
Warren Ellis.
Yeah.
When I said Garth Ennis.
Yeah, but nobody listening knows that story, but Warren Ellis apparently hates musicals. Anyway.
We'll just cut this part out
James,
of the show.
what do you think
Well,
about
at least
Sunday?
you got another comic book artist.
James, what are
I
some of
guess.
your
It wasn't Warren Ellis.
James, what are your favorite songs and scores and blah blah blah?
I'm gonna have to go with Hammer Time over here.
Okay.
The Gypsy Kings. That song in that movie is perfect because the whole movie he iterates how much he hates the Eagles.
Yes.
He even gets kicked out of that cab
Yeah.
because of it. And then one of the other characters that he hates the most in the movie, the Jesus, it's playing when he's going up to bowl.
Yes.
So it's kind of like this multi-layered statement with that song in that movie. And then, of course, the soundtrack to Oh Brother. I mean, it's just, who doesn't probably have a copy of that at home?
I do. I think we all owned it, man. That was a great soundtrack, man. And like everybody was banging that. Like you would roll through the hood in the year 2000 and you would hear some bluegrass coming out, man. It's crazy. What about you, Mike? You're a big music guy and film especially. What do you think?
It's a film that we have not really talked about a lot. I'm just going to give it an honorable mention. Is Intolerable Cruelty.
Okay.
It's got a decent little soundtrack on there, but they have a throwback. And I think everybody loves Big Lebowski because of it's Bob Dylan heavy. They're really Bob Dylan heavy. It's got a decent little soundtrack. Big Lebowski has a good soundtrack. Oh Brother has a good soundtrack. But Inside Llewyn Davis is probably the best one. And to me, and it goes back to Bob Dylan again. So I think all the
Fairly well. You like that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's a great movie with a great soundtrack. I got Llewyn Davis on my list as well. I think it's got an amazing soundtrack. I really like, of course, the Please Mr. Kennedy song. It's him and Justin Timberlake and Kylo Ren over there. Adrian Driver.
Yeah.
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver.
I will remember this dude's name one day.
Just call him Kylo
If
Ren.
I met him in
Kylo's
person,
fine.
I'd be like, Kylo, what's up? That's all I know. Kylo Hilo. But now Llewyn Davis is great, but the song that starts the movie, Hang Me, Oh Hang Me,
Yeah.
that's the one that's so haunting. It sticks with me.
It sets the tone for the whole entire film.
Oh Brother obviously has a great soundtrack. Man of Constant Sorrow. I mean, come on. right? I mean, that's a great version of that song. But Ralph Stanley, who recently passed away this year, Oh Death. That scene at the KKK rally, and he sings that, "Oh, death, won't you bear me over for another year?" That's a great movie. Great, it's a musical. It's fantastic. Lady Killers, which I watched last night for the first time, has a fantastic score, gospel and hip hop, and a great mix of the two. And just speaking about scores, and they've worked with the same composer, I think, for a lot of their films, as well as the same cinematographer for like 25 years. But Blood Simple has got a great score for being their first film. It's got this very haunting theme that goes around it that sounds like a theme from a cheap movie, but...
Yeah, that movie pays a lot of harkening back to, 1950s noir.
Oh, and it's so good. And it's got a perfect score that goes with that. But overall, like Oh Brother and Llewyn Davis, like, those are great scores.
One of the reasons, I'll make it quick, Llewyn Davis over Oh Brother, no lip syncing. It's all Oscar Isaac singing.
Oscar Isaac is fantastic in that movie. Obviously, George Clooney is not singing. But the guy that plays the Robert Johnson character is legit in that movie. Yeah. Well, I cannot remember his actual name, but that guy is a fantastic blues guitarist. Yeah, it's fantastic. We will speak his name when we get back from the break, and we're doing our top 5 favorite Coen Brothers movies of all time here on Pop Culture Philosophers. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, Rockin' Robbie here. I want to talk to you real quick about Rockin' with Rockin' Robbie. That's right, it's my own show. We started about 4 years ago. We've been a little bit on a hiatus here and there, but Rockin' with Rockin' Robbie returns. It's returning very, very soon with our all-new episode, The Wonderful World of Wood. That's right. What could it be? What would it be? Anyway, thank you guys so much for checking us out. And remember, Rockin' with Rockin' Robbie is exclusive to YouTube. So join us for The Wonderful World of Wood on the next Rockin' with Rockin' Robbie, only on the Pop Culture Philosophers YouTube channel.
Welcome back to Pop Culture Philosophers. We're talking about the Coen Brothers. We're about to do our top 5, the meat of the show. But before we get to that, the guitar player from Oh Brother Where Art Thou.
Who played Tommy Johnson.
Yeah, Tommy Johnson.
Based on Robert Johnson.
Chris Thomas King.
Chris Thomas King.
Great actor, great voice.
Yeah.
And great guitarist.
Speaking of cut off your Johnson, let's do the top 5. Not a very good segue, but we'll take what we can get. I'm going to start. We're going to go... clockwise, starting with James. Let's go with your number 5. We're going to do top 5 in ascending order. We're going to do it old school way. So let's hear number 5, James. I'm you being such a film buff, I'm really keen to hear your top 5. So give me your number 5 if you could.
Number 5. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Great film.
It's a great film. I mean, it has a little bit of everything for everybody. It has music, comedy, the craziness, and it's a really fun movie to watch.
Robbie.
My number 5 is 1991's Barton Fink. Their first big critical...
Barton Fink on your top 5.
I think that there's a lot in that movie. The hotel represents hell. Charlie, John Goodman's character, represents fire. Barton Fink, John Turturro's character, represents water. There's so much in this movie. It's so rich, so layered. And their first big critical success...
Well, in your theory... What's in the box?
Gwyneth Paltrow's head.
God damn.
That's always what's in the box, dude.
It's always in the box.
What's in the box?
You're number 5, Mike.
I'm going to go with the Capitol Pictures classic, Hail Caesar.
Hail Caesar.
Josh Brolin's character, which is, he just running himself ragged. And I love the fact that he's it's like, how the cigarette's going. He's like, haven't had one today. And he smoked like a whole entire pack that he's bummed off of everybody. It's a great movie that you just have to love Hollywood and old movies to really get.
I'm gonna give you my number 5 real quick. My number 5 is a No Country for Old Men. So I think
At
it's a great
5?
film. My number 5.
Wow, at number 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't see his list going anywhere but wrong.
It's all downhill from here.
Why number 5, John?
I think it's a great film. It's a great cast. It's a very dark film, but it's one of those films that I think is a great film. It just wasn't as good as the other films. To me, I don't necessarily like their darker films. So, but I had to have that on there. I mean, if I look at all their films, I have to have that on the list.
So you're saying it possibly wasn't even going to make your top 5?
Yes. Your number 4, James.
Hudsucker Proxy.
Hudsucker Proxy.
Mainly because Robbie still hasn't seen it. It has a lot of zaniness in it, and then, random, characters that are somehow possibly, the embodiment of good and the embodiment of evil in them. And just that clock scene, fight scene is just amazing.
Robbie, you're number 4.
My number 4 is their first film, 1984, Blood Simple. I love it. It's basically a dark episode of Three's Company, if you really think about it. A lot of their movies are just one
misunderstandings.
Bad decision that leads to that movie is filled with misunderstandings, and it's another one of their movies that repeats that theme of the average guy getting into this world that is way above his head, way out of his league, this criminal world. This movie is crazy, and it's basically a joke, and the punchline is a dude laughing at the end of the movie.
Speaking of drugs and alcohol, what's your number 4, Mike?
Drugs and alcohol is going to be the big Lebowski. There's so much to say about this movie. We've covered a good bit. We haven't covered it enough. Nobody knows, who's telling the truth. The only person that doesn't lie in the whole entire film is Donnie. So everybody is playing.
Yeah, he's the sweet innocent guy. My number 4 would be Raising Arizona, which was the first film I saw by them. And again, removing Matchstick Men is my favorite Nic Cage film. I love Raising Arizona, which is a Coen Brothers film, obviously. So that was the first film I saw by them. I love the villain in it. I love the zaniness of the characters. I love the fact that this guy's got all these. He can't take care of all these kids. We want a kid. We're good people. There might be idiots. There might be criminals. They have a good heart. They just want to. I just like the story. I still think it's a great film, and that's why it's my number 4. Number 3, James.
Fargo.
Great choice for your number 3. Great film.
I just really love snow.
It's a cold film, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, and now it's produced a whole TV show and everything too.
A show that I heard was great. I haven't watched the show. I heard it was phenomenal.
I have not watched it yet either, but
watched season 1. I haven't caught up.
All things I hear is pretty good though.
What's your number 3, Robbie?
2013's Inside Llewyn Davis. I watched that film today, and I'm so glad I did because I thought I had my top 5 figured out. Maybe it's going to be True Grit, maybe Burn After Reading in there, but Inside Llewyn Davis, I watched today. It's a great film. It's so good. Oscar Isaac, fantastic performance. Justin Timberlake, I cannot remember the lady who's in it, but she is fantastic. It's got a great cast. It's the most unlike the Coen Brothers, but obviously still a Coen Brothers film.
Your number 3, Mikey?
I'll bring it up when I get to my number 2. My number 3, though, is Barton Fink. I never really watched the movie. I was just kind of But what I wanted to... I love the fact that what Robbie had to say earlier, and I was going to add to this, but if you look how he's loved and praised in New York City for being this amazing playwright, and he's got so much depth and character and feel, and that's the way the plays and the Broadway style is done, and then you get to Hollywood, and it's just just crank it out,
We just want you to make a wrestling picture.
It's like here's my. I'm giving you my. It's like in New York, he's giving his soul and his heart, and then they just break him and destroy that. And I love John Goodman's character in there, and that's when you're just like, John Goodman's the devil, man.
Yeah, right.
Who hasn't said that before? My number 3 is going to be Fargo. So I'm right up there with James. Great film. Not my favorite film with there by any means, but it's a great film. It's one of the first films I saw that I was more cognizant of who they were as a directing duo. And honestly, Frances McDormand, she's such a phenomenal.
Love you, Margie.
Yeah, she's so great. Number 2, James.
The Big Lebowski. One of my favorite movies, hands down. In general, I mean, it's just such a fun movie to watch, and it's one of those movies when I was talking about the woo thing earlier. It's one of those movies that you catch more and more as you watch it.
Great film. What is your number 2, Robbie?
My number 2 is 2007's Best Picture winner, No Country for Old Men. Love that movie. I'm a big Cormac McCarthy fan ever since I first read Blood Meridian. Great performances. Josh Brolin, Tommy Lee Jones, Javier Bardem. Fantastic movie. It is a masterpiece of a film, a perfect modern-day new wave Western, if you will.
My number 2 is Inside Llewyn Davis. It's a Coen Brothers film. This could be another Oh Brother, but it totally goes in a different direction. There's so many different layers and just different ways to go in the story, and it's just that how can somebody go, this is what he does on a daily basis. He makes no money. He's always couch surfing, and he has nothing, and she's trying to get something, and it's number 2 because if you haven't seen it, you need to see it.
My number 2 is going to be Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? So great soundtrack, great cast. We talked about it already. So great film, love it. So James, I want to get to your number 1, but let's run down on your favorite thus far. So your number 5 was Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Your number 4 was Hudsucker Proxy. Your number 3 was Fargo. Your number 2 was Big Lebowski. I think we all want to know what your number 1 is.
No Country for Old Men.
Oh, that made all the way to your number 1.
It is their best movie in multiple senses because, like, it's the perfect adaptation of a book, and they do so many great things, like choosing not to put any music in that movie. Like, you are forced to stay in the moment with the characters at all times. Pretty much one of the a perfect movie.
Robbie, I'd like to know your number 1, but before we get to that, let's go back over.
Oh, please do. Please do.
Your previous 4 here. So your number 5 was Barton Fink. Your number 4 was Blood Simple. Your number 3 was Inside Llewellyn Davis. Your number 2 was No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
I'm dying to know what your number 1 is.
Well, I'm a big fan of Greek writing, philosophy and tragedy and all that stuff. Huge fan of Homer. Love the Iliad, but especially love the Odyssey. So it's goddamn. It's Oh Brother, it's No Country, Where Art Thou? It's Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I love that movie. I think it's great. It's got a perfect blend. I think it's one of the best movies that blends music with the film and the narrative. And we understand there's a lot of rich folklore in the South. And to basically take an epic like the Odyssey and merge it with the folklore of the South into this amazing piece of fiction. I love it. I think it's great on all levels. I love that movie. It's my favorite.
Mikey, I think we're dying to know your number 1. Let's see here. Your number 5 was Hail Caesar. Your number 4 was Big Lebowski. Number 3 was Borton
Fink.
Your number 3
I thought you say Born Identity.
Your number 3 was Barton Fink. Your number 2 was Inside Llewellyn Davis. What would your number 1 be?
Man, I wish I could go ahead and just, say, Inside Llewellyn Davis again, just to continue to talk about that film, because there's so much, and I don't think we gave it justice. But No Country for Old Men is my number 1.
It's a great film.
One of my favorite things about No Country, and we have not talked about it, and James, you'll probably catch on to this, is I don't know if you know how the Coen Brothers shoot their films. They use a wide-angle lens for everything, and they have the shot-for-shot kind of thing to where, the camera's in the middle, not over the shoulder. And then when they do their close-ups, it's still a wide-angle lens that just pans in slowly. And the great thing about No Country is, like, the hotel scene when he's there, and towards the end. And then there's the girl that's, you see him walking by, and she has the conversation with him, and she's in the pool chair hanging out by the pool. And then later on, when Tommy Lee Jones get there, she's dead. And it's just one of those that their camera work is why that film is amazing.
Great number 1. And I'm going to throw mine out there, just in case you guys all forgot already. My number 5 was No Country for Old Men. My number 4 was Raising Arizona. My number 3 was Fargo. My number 2 was Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And my number 1 is going to be The Big Lebowski, which we've kind of talked about a lot already. We all love that film. And
there's so much we haven't talked about it, though.
Yeah, there's so much we can go. I mean, great cast, great soundtrack. It's one of those things where he's just put in his circumstances. He just wants to be left alone, man. The dude's a good guy. But I love that film. Great film.
Yeah, there's just all sorts of ins and outs and things that you guys may not be aware of, man.
So I think they're great. Love them. And I'm also excited about the next episode of Pop Culture Philosophers. Not a very good segue, but we're going to talk about Christmas. Christmas is coming up.
Because it's the second most wonderful time
of the year.
I think most people it's the first most wonderful. Okay. For some.
Speaking of Christmas movies.
No, that's Halloween, homie.
Very excited. And we appreciate everybody tuning in. Same Coen Brothers time, same Coen Brothers channel.
Sure.
That would be a good channel. You could do a Coen Brothers TV channel.
Yeah, just play the same 17 movies.
Yeah, you
all
can
day.
play the same. Yeah.
And Fargo, I guess, the series.
You could do the Fargo series on top of that.
Let's make a Big Lebowski TV show.
We appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, if you're on the site, we're also on iTunes and Android. If you're on iTunes and Android, check us out online, www.popculturephilosophers.com. We appreciate you guys tuning in.